Welcome to Transformative Principal, where I help you stop putting out fires and start leading. I'm your host, Jethro Jones. You can follow me on Twitter at Jethro Jones. Welcome to Transformative Principal. I am so excited for my conversation today. I've got Mike Caldwell here from Linked Leaders, and he is awesome. Let me just set the stage a little bit. So Mike created this thing called Linked Leaders, which is a way for people to get mentoring as school leaders, essentially from the person they need it when they need it, which I think is just a great idea. As you know, I've been coaching principals for the last 10 years almost, um, and typically I enter into long-term things with people. But what I do the most of is people say, "Hey, I've got this question and I need some help. Can you work with me on this?" And we do a 30-minute call, and a lot of times that just solves their problem. And what Mike's done is created a group where you can go get those problems answered. And is that a good enough summary, Mike? What else would you add there?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think the people I talk to when I share this idea that what immediately clicks for them, and maybe this is the mentality of a principal and kind of what they need. They're like, "Oh, it's teletherapy for school leaders." I was like, "Yeah, that's kind of what it is." I
Yeah,
mean,
there you go.
it's real time, kind of on demand mentoring and coaching and or therapy, depending on what the principal needs. And as we both know, as former school leaders. Sometimes you just need to talk to somebody that has been in your shoes and understands your pain, and you can commiserate and hopefully come out of it with a clearer head and kind of new hope.
Yeah. And two things I would add. Number one, it's not actually therapy, so don't get it twisted, folks. It's
Thank
not
you. Yeah.
actually therapy, and we're not claiming that it is. But also you often need somebody who's not connected to all the politics that are going on in your school district or your school, because they're real. And sometimes well, not sometimes, often you get clouded by that, and it's really difficult to not be clouded by that. And the thing that I hear most often from people that I'm coaching is it is so helpful to have someone who's not in all the drama of what's going on. So you can just cut to the real issue instead of, when somebody will come up to me with a problem, and they'll give like this 15-minute exposition of what the problem is, and I'll be able to say the real problem is you didn't communicate expectations clearly 6 months ago. And they're like, "Oh my gosh, you're right." And the only reason I can see that they can't is because I'm not sucked into all the drama. And being a detached observer who only cares about the success of the person that I'm talking to and their real success, not the artificial or superficial success, but their real deep success. I can have those insights very easily. What would you add to that, Mike?
Yeah, 100% what you're saying. First of all, I'm glad you clarified that it is
Yeah.
that tongue in cheek, and you're 100% right. Yeah, when to one we all know that school leaders don't have the luxury of time. So we can't waste time here, right? So you got to get right to like what are the challenges, and without beating around the bush, like kind of really dive into the weeds together and figure out what can we do to mitigate or support some of those challenges. I would add to what you said, this element of safety in a place where you can go and be real. And within sometimes you have that with the team that you're around or within your district, but oftentimes, and I heard this a lot from female leaders that I was talking to as I was developing this concept and kind of working on different working groups and focus groups to kind of build this idea. But what I heard most often from female school leaders is they don't feel like they can afford to be vulnerable in the workplace, whether it's with their peers or with their boss. And it's especially, they felt especially true for females. And to have, and I've worked with a lot of great female administrators, which has been phenomenal. And I've learned a lot from them. Um, but there is this kind of, you know, beauty in creating a safe place where it's not anonymous, but it's a place where you're not going to be, you don't feel being judged by someone in your district or in your school. You can go and be really vulnerable and real, and there's a lot of power in that.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the focus, and what we're trying to build is a safe place to for peers to meet and to work through different challenges and get better as leaders.
I don't love everything that Brene Brown says, but one of the things that I really like is that she uses the phrase brave space instead of safe space. And what I really appreciate about that is that it's a place that enables you to be brave rather than a place that enables you to feel safe because there are differences there, right? Safe means nothing bad can happen here. Brave means something bad might still happen. I may get embarrassed, but I can still take that risk. And that's one thing that I really appreciate about that. And what I try to create in my coaching situations with principals is you can say where you screwed up here and nobody's going to attack you over it. But you can't always say that in your district or in with your peer colleagues that are close to you. It can be really tough to say what's really going on. It can be tough to say that maybe you screwed up or that you're not sure of what the right answer is. And there can be judgment, there can be repercussions. There can be situations where uh, you saying one thing in a meeting or with a group of people could lead to later the superintendent saying, I won't even consider this person for this other position because of that thing you said, trying to be vulnerable, but not being aware that that vulnerability was going to harm you later on without you even knowing it. And so that's another
Yeah.
reason why it's good to have someone detached. What else would you add there?
Yeah. I was recently working with an elementary school principal over in the Northeast part of the U.S. And she's part of a large district and is in her third year, kind of going through the growing pains. She's dealing with some significant challenges within her school that I don't envy. She works with, I mean, in their district, there's, I think, 8 other elementary school principals. So on the surface, you would say, well, she has 8 peers that she can go and reach out to that are going through similar things and that was my first thought when I'm talking to her is like, how often do you reach out to these peers? And in that particular environment, I know it's not the case in all districts, but in that particular environment, she said, no, that's one of the last things I'll do. I did that once, and my hand was slapped by the district saying, why wouldn't you come to us? And then I was judged by other school leaders because I asked this question. So she just shut down, hunkered down, and has been kind of working in isolation, really,
Hmm.
over the last year or so because she got burned by seeking help.
Yeah,
So I think it's a
crazy.
real challenge. Yeah.
Yeah, it is a real challenge. And I've heard that story hundreds of times over the last decade of working with principals. And
And what was cool is through this link leaders, after talking to her, I was like, come on onto this. I can recommend a couple of the leaders. We have 25 or so different mentors from all over the country on here. And recommend a couple, but you can choose who you want to meet with. And she met with one of our mentors from Oklahoma, and they only met for 30 minutes. But she sent me this really nice text in how just in 30 minutes she felt both affirmed, empowered, and had kind of a clear path to tackle some of the challenges that she was dealing with. Now, I don't think, nothing, there's no silver bullet here. There's still going to be challenges that you're dealing with. But if you can get that in 30 minutes in a brave space where you can really share your challenges, um, I just think there's a lot of power in peer-to-peer mentoring, and so I'm happy to be able to connect people that need it.
Yeah, and Mike, this is so key because you anybody sitting in the chair of a principal knows how you're pulled in so many different ways. That the board wants one thing, the superintendent wants another. The sometimes the superintendent and the board are pitting you against each other, and they're using you as a pawn. Parents are doing the same thing, teachers are doing the same thing, students have another different need, and like you are literally pulled in so many different directions, and it can feel incredibly lonely and isolating. And that is the thing that I hear most often from principals, that despite what supports may be in place, despite what supports they do have, they often just feel lonely, and that um, districts can do a great job, but at the same time, like you said, uh, asking the wrong question can have repercussions that you don't even know about. And I do not think that people are like out there intentionally saying and doing awful things to get principals in trouble, but they're seeing a different picture. And so what somebody says or asks could be seen in a different light. And you don't always know as the principal what those things look like. And so you may have a very supportive network around you, and that's great. But sometimes you still need an outside perspective. And one of the things that I tell the people that I coach is I'm here to help you be a better person overall. And so I'm like, even if the district hires me, like I am here to help you as a person holistically, not just, help you become a better principal. And I've had to coach many people out of their jobs and say, this isn't the right place for you. You're never going to succeed here because they keep setting you up for failure. And a lot of times people don't see that and they're not aware of it. And then later, once they're out, they're like, I can't believe how great my new district is. Like none of this stuff is happening. And it's scary to make that leap. And it's not all doom and gloom, don't get me wrong. But some people just, if you've been in the same district for your whole career, you just don't know what else is going on. Even if you've been in different districts as a teacher and then you're a principal in a different place, you just you don't always see the bigger picture. So having somebody else to talk with and give additional support is really, really beneficial.
Absolutely. And we really have, a retention problem at the school leadership level, right? There's been, I don't know what the most recent study is, but a few years back, NAS, National Association of Secondary School Principals, did a pretty comprehensive study on principal retention. And at that time, they talked about 1 in 6 principals leave their school each year. I
Mhm.
mean, annually, 1 in 6. And that's even more in high poverty schools. And that a recent stat that I read is, 1 in 2 or 50% of principals are considering leaving their job each year just due to the stress. I was reading, just skimming through some of the Facebook groups that are, principal based Facebook groups, and I came across this one this morning. The quote or the prompt was, anyone else feeling this? And it's exhauster whelmulated, um, which is an adjective that means the feeling of being exhausted, overwhelmed, and overstimulated all at once. And for any of us that have wore the hat as a principal, you feel exhausted, whelmulated just about all the time. It's a challenging job, and I don't think there is I'm convinced, we should have a debate on here sometime. Like, what is the hardest job in the world? And I
Yeah.
would put high school principal or just principal in general, but I think high school principals have it the toughest. And I'm biased there, but
Hmm.
I think it might be the hardest job that there is. And so there is no surprise to me that there is a retention problem. And with that, I think there's a quality problem because you can't be the best at everything, and you are expected to be the best at everything and all the things that you juggle and all those types of things. So and time is a huge factor, and that's why I go back to this on demand mentorship, kind of on your schedule, and that is uh I don't have a lot of time. I can't go. I don't have the luxury of going for, sitting in an 8 hour workshop and hopefully coming away with, you know 10%, of takeaways from that information that's going to make me better as a leader. Some of those are great, but really what I need is, I'm struggling with this issue, or I need to get better at X. And I know I can go connect with somebody tomorrow that is really good at X, and I'm going to go spend an hour with them, and I'll be better at the end of that hour, because
Mhm.
it's targeted to what I need right now. And needs change, right? I mean, I think that's the other thing that's powerful with mentorship, is whether you're a first year principal or a 10-year principal, you're always learning, right? That was my
Mhm.
tagline, and it still is on all my emails. Always learning, because you evolve, and there's always new things that are going to be challenging you as a school leader. And so having a good mentor that can kind of help pull you along and push you along, I think, is really important.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, I want to key in on that point of needs change over time. And sometimes you don't know the actual problem that you have, and other times you have a really clear idea and understanding of like this is exactly what the problem is. And what's cool is that in these situations where you've set up this place for people to come and get that support is you can you can find you can find whatever it is that you need wherever you're at. And that's the beauty of the the network effect of social media and online presence and things like that, that if you have a specific issue, you can go find someone who's probably had that issue also. And that's exactly how I've used this podcast for my whole career. We're going on um 12 years now, and I just ask the problems that either I'm facing as a principal, or since I'm not a principal anymore, I'm asking the problems that my principals are facing, and that they're coming to me with saying, what do I do here? And then I go find someone who can answer it, and then I figure it out, and then I send them a link to the podcast and say, hey, I gave you my advice when we met, but here's this other thing, and maybe this can help. And I think that's such a beautiful thing about the world that we live in now, is that you can get help from so many different people in so many different ways, which I just think is amazing. So tell us
Yeah, let
how.
me
Yeah, please go
let me
ahead.
add to that before you ask your next question too, because I think sometimes, and I've been guilty of this, is I think it's really, there's a lot of power in curiosity as well, in seeking differences in how things are done, maybe in the same same job, but looking at different ways to do it. And I think sometimes, I'm in Idaho, and I've been in Idaho my whole career, and you sometimes you might get trapped into thinking this is how all education is done, right? And what the beauty is on this platform too, is you can go connect with school leaders that have worked in international schools, in private schools, charter schools across the country, in different places in the world. And if you're just curious about doing things different, or trying new things, or getting fresh ideas on old stuff, man, there is a wealth of opportunity in this, where I'm just going to go on a curiosity hunt, right? I'm going to go and talk to somebody about how they schedule their week, for example, or how they handle X, Y, or Z, right? And to
Mhm.
go and talk to somebody that's in a completely different kind of landscape, but still is leading a school. There could be a lot of power in that as well.
Yeah. Well, and that gets to the point of like, what does this look like for someone? Where do they go, and what do they get when they become part of Linked Leaders? And what kind of people are you looking for?
So the type of people we're looking for mentors and coaches, is that what you're looking, or are you talking about mentees?
Both is what I'm looking for.
Yeah. So on the mentor side, obviously people that have had enough experience, whether they're still leading a school, or or they could be in the district office, but they've been in the big seat, if you will, and wore the hat as a school leader, I think is really important. Um, but somebody also that just has a genuine kind of authentic drive to give back and to support those that are either less experienced in their career, or are just looking for support and guidance. So somebody that has that kind of drive and mentality to give back. Um, then obviously, somebody that from a character standpoint is willing to listen first and understand, kind of as opposed to someone that just wants to tell you everything that they know. Because a mentee doesn't come just to get, you know, talked to or told how to do things. It's a conversation that you have, and it starts with the mentor really keying in on and listening, like you said, this person described their whole problem, and you zeroed in on the issue and helped them kind of uncover that, where they were maybe glossing over it, or not seeing it themselves. But you had to be a listener first, and an empathetic listener, right?
Hmm.
And without judgment. And so those are the kind of qualities that we're looking for. I don't think it's necessarily they have to have, this certificate or this, but I think when you go to the coaching level, where, and there is a difference between mentoring and coaching, um, there's more of a skill set there. And there's different, entities that provide training and things like that for that. But the mentoring is kind of more reading and reacting, and coaching is kind of guiding through kind of towards a goal, and kind of shepherding that person along towards their goals. So those are the kind of people we're looking for. Right now, we have a really good, base of individuals that are eager to support and help anybody that comes in. So on the mentee side, I think there's if you're leading a school, and you could look me dead in the eye and say, I got it all together. I don't need help. I don't need support. Um, you're one of the very you're
Yeah.
the 1%, or you're just flat out lying, right? So I think if you're in a school leadership level, and I think you're probably needing some support in some capacity. um, but what we're looking for is people that actually want to do something about it, right?
Hmm.
It's one thing to be miserable and drowning and is exhauster whelmulated, but it's another thing to say, but what am I going to do to take care of myself so that I can be a better leader to support my students, to my faculty, my staff, and mentorship, and getting that kind of support is part of it. But sleeping and eating and exercise and all those types of things obviously are super important as well. Balancing, your work life and those types of things, but taking care of yourself professionally, so that you can better take care of other people. So
Hmm.
I think there's a lot of people that need help, but we're looking for the people that need help and are also willing to do something about it.
Yeah. And that's so key because you got to take the action, right? You uh, I talk to a lot of people who are like learning constantly and never actually taking the action that they need to. And that's something that's just you got to be able to take action. And it's easy to ask for help. It's easy to ask for advice and to hear what people have to say. It's easy to research, and it's easy to make that busyness of researching and learning look like you're actually doing something, but that's not always what's going to move the needle. You got to actually take action. So that's one of the things that I ask in each of my coaching calls is what are you going to do? What's the action you're going to take? And what are you going to report back on next time? And I often will schedule emails or schedule texts to follow up with people right then and there and say, "How did you do on this thing?" And that's a really good little trick that I have that lets them know I'm going to follow up and get some answers. So my last question is, what is one thing that a principal can do this week to be a transformative principal like you, Mike?
Wow. think just not settling for where you are today, regardless of where you are. Whether you're a brand new principal that's just trying to get your feet underneath you, or you're a 20-year veteran that has seen probably anything and everything that's come your way, is be curious to keep learning and growing, regardless of where you are in your career. And there's so many opportunities to be curious. There's a lot of opportunities out there, and I think one of the best is when you can go and learn from other people, and not just other people that have more experience than you or whatever. I've learned a lot. There's a particular teacher in Wyoming, actually, that I've been talking through on this project, and gosh, I've learned just so much from him, right? Like, and
Is
you
that
can learn a
Aaron?
lot from. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
Aaron. Yeah,
Aaron
isn't he
is
a fantastic
awesome.
dude? Shout
Yeah.
out to Aaron.
And let me just say, let me just pump him up just a little bit. Aaron McKelkey, aaronmckelkey.com. Go check him out. Um, he he is like he said this to me. He said, Jethro, my goal is to be the best student you've ever had. So everything you tell me to do, I'm going to go execute on, and I'm going to make sure you know. And like 6 months ago, I set up a podcast for him. So because he wanted to do one, and he texted me this morning and said, "Thanks for all your help. Here's I finally did it." And so it's been a lot of time where he's been planning and working, and finally he released it just yesterday. Future Proof University, or Future Proof U is what you'll look for in Apple Podcasts. You should go check it out. Great stuff that he's doing, and like talk about somebody who takes action and does the stuff. Sorry to interrupt, but just had to say that it's good stuff.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I wasn't sure if I should say his name or not. I'm glad you did, because
Yeah,
that's a
I'll
good shout
shout him
out for
out.
him.
Yeah.
But yeah, but I think it's that. It's like, be curious, be willing to talk to people and learn. There's a lot of things you can learn from just about anybody, and I think it's just being willing to be curious, and always seeking to learn and grow. I mean, I know that's maybe cliche, but I don't know. I believe that.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. So somebody's interested in getting a mentor. How do they connect with Linked Leaders?
Yeah, absolutely. Easy, easy. If you go to linkleaders.com, one of the first buttons you'll see is start a free trial. And so it will take 2 minutes or less to click that button and set up your profile. And within that, you have 7 days to go access any and all of our mentors and coaches that are on the site, um, at no cost. And I think that will be proof in the pudding. After that, it's pretty clear on how you can subscribe and continue access with any of our mentors. So it's easy. Just go to the site. You can learn a little bit about it, but in one click you can access. Right, I think there's 26 different mentors from all over the world right now.
Yeah, it's awesome. Good stuff. Um,
And
yes,
Jethro Jones is one of them,
let's
which I'm
go.
excited. That's
Let's
right.
go. Yeah. And I would love to be one of those people that you reach out to for part of that free trial. That would be awesome. But there's a lot of other great people on there. So find someone that you need. That's the beauty of it. And I talk to a lot of people and I'm always like, man, I wish I came up with this. Why didn't I think of this? And this is one of those ideas. So when you brought it to me, I was like, I want to do what I can to support you in this and be there and be part of it. And it's a lot of fun, and it's been a lot of fun watching you build it and make it happen. So that's
Yeah, well,
pretty exciting too.
yeah, and I appreciate you and all the people that are part of this, because it's certainly not a me thing; it's a we thing. It wouldn't happen without great people, and you are one of them. So I appreciate that. And I love it because it's so simple. I mean, it's just like so dumb simple. Like, you go and sign up, you go find the person you're interested, learn a little bit about them, and then you just click, like two buttons: book a session, look at their schedule and when they're available, and match that when you're available. You click a time that you want to meet with them, and you're connected, and it's all built in. There's no back and forth emails that you have to worry about. Um, and so it's a super simple way just to get connected with other people, which I'm super excited about.
Yeah, it's awesome. This was a great conversation, Mike. Thank you so much. Everybody go check out linkedleaders.com. There's a link to that in the show notes at transformativeprincipal.org. And we'll see you next time on the Transformative Principal podcast.